So, as I begin this morning, I'd like to share with you a poem that I was reminded of during conference. I think it's probably one that's familiar with most of you, but I'd like you to listen to the words really carefully. If I'd had the presence of mind during one of the many times I contacted Jennifer during this week saying, would you please add this slide, and would you please add this slide, I would have had the next slide to be a picture of a road in the woods. Close your eyes. Picture it. I see some eyes open. Close those eyes. I want you to get a picture of that. See if there's even any little flowers there or any branches on the ground. Now picture that road dividing into two different directions. Look down each direction. Nobody's down there. One side has some appearance that there's been people walking, but the other side's kind of overgrown. I want you to think about that for a minute. The road not taken. You can open your eyes now, or you can keep them shut, whatever more comfortable. This is by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged into a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both, and be one traveler. Long I stood, and I looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for the passing there, had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged into a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that, my friends, has made all the difference. Would you please pray with me? We've a story to tell to the nations. It shall turn their hearts to the right. A story of peace and of mercy, a story of peace and light, a story of peace and light. Most wonderful God, help us to think about our stories that brought us here, our stories that we've been afraid of, our stories that we're proud of, and our stories that are yet to be written. God, give us the courage, give us the faith, even more than the courage, to take the steps, to go on the path less trodden, to go in the place that you direct us, so that the people who need to hear us down at the end around the curve in that road will be there to hear us and know about your great love for every one of us. In Jesus' name, thank you, saints. In Jesus, amen. Hello, saints. That's the way that Reverend Elder Troy Perry always opened his worship services. I love this picture. I grew up in the day when it was just commonplace to go to a general conference, and the person that you saw, the person that you leaned on, the person that you made you feel comfortable. You know how when you go home and you're in that shaky kind of point, the one that usually makes you feel comfortable is either a parent figure or a mom or a dad or somebody like that. Somebody that you leaned on and kept you solid. Somebody that you could trust in those times when you felt kind of wobbly. Well, that's what Reverend Elder Troy did and does for MCC. And it was amazing to be able to see him at conference, and it was sad all at the same time because he was taken off the stage on Friday in a wheelchair, though his voice was big and bold when he preached on Monday morning, on Was it Monday morning? Yeah, I think it was Monday morning. And he stood up and he said, "Hello, saints," and it was wonderful to hear. He just still had all the fire and brimstone that he's ever had, and all of the love and challenge that he's ever given to his denomination. And I say his denomination because he is the one that started MCC 50 years ago. I was proud to be able to stand up as somebody, they asked us to stand up and say how long you've been there, and they started with the people who've been there 50 years, and there was only about 2 or 3 of those people left. And then they went on to 40 years, and I got to stand up, and then they went to 30 years, and 20 years, and 10 years, and they stopped right there. And it was exciting to see how many people joined that road less traveled by. Because you see, what Reverend Elder Troy did for us was very similar to what Jesus did for us. Jesus talked to the disciples and he said, "I need you to go out ahead of me. I need you to go 2 by 2. I need you to go get ready. And if it's a place that's safe, then go ahead, go be there, find a spot, settle in. I'll be there. But if it's a place that doesn't welcome you, kick the dust off. Because you don't even want any of that dust left on your sandals. You don't need any extra baggage at all." How many of us have been willing to venture down that road less traveled by? But more importantly, I want us to think about this. How many of us would be sitting here today with any semblance of belief that God could love us? Nah, God could love me. Say it. That God could love me. Oh my goodness. Did we lose our audience participation skills? Really? Let's try one more time. God could love me. I wanted to hear that "me" really emphasized, because I really believe that most of us come into this place, well, maybe not Mama, because Mama, I think, has always known, haven't you, that God loves you. But many of us haven't believed. We've been told, as a matter of fact, it's not possible. You're dreaming dreams. No, you can't be a lesbian. No, you can't be trans. What? No, you can't. No. There have been 100 million reasons for the no that we've been given about why God couldn't love us. Either because of who we are or what we've done. We've come to believe in some place in our beings, and I totally believe this. I believe that, I sometimes tell the story. When I was a little kid, like 4 years old, I used to think these horrible things. My grandmother would discipline me, and I would just think horrible things because I would just wish she wouldn't be there anymore. And then when she wasn't there anymore, I felt terrible. I thought I did it. I thought that my prayers, my statements did it. So for years, I thought God couldn't love me because I wanted my grandmother to not be around anymore. She was the best grandma in the world. She got me the prettiest skirt. It was so wonderful. I was her oldest grandchild. I always got the favorite stuff, I loved it. I got to go stay at her house. I hated the fact that she put those chairs up at the side of my bed so I wouldn't roll out. And now I'd love to have somebody do that just to remind me that they love me so much. They don't want me to get hurt. Because that's what grandma love does for us. But anyway, that's a sidetrack. We all have reasons why we think that we can't possibly be loved by God. But Troy helped us because he walked down the road less traveled to find us. Let's say that together. Troy walked that road to find us, to find me. It's because of this church that I am in this place. Be not mistaken about that. I grew up in a Presbyterian church. I loved some of the songs. I loved going to choir. I loved doing some of the things that I did there, but it didn't create a depth in my church and my home that worked for me. It worked for my brother. That's fine, that's great, but it didn't work for me. I'm different. I'm very different than he is. I needed somebody else to be there. And see, there's just somebody out there for each and every one of us to get us the word. I totally believe that. I totally believe there are people in my path yet to come that if I don't talk to them, they're not going to hear it. So that's my responsibility. I got to be ready to let my lips flap, even when it might be a scary thing. Even when those people might not believe the same things I do. Yeah, you see, some of those people might just be waiting to hear a different word and chew on it. The Galatians scripture reminds us, we reap what we sow. That's so interesting. I hate gardening. I just hate gardening. You get that dirt under your nails. The pink doesn't look as good when you got the dirt under the nails. No, there's bugs in there. Did you know that? There's worms and bugs and things. It's not fun. You have to get down there in the dirt and then it gets all over. No, don't like that kind of gardening, but I like this kind of gardening. This is my kind of gardening. It's all kind of the same thing. We kind of dig around and dig around and move around and move around till we find the place where we need to plant some seeds, right? I've been so blessed to be able to plant seeds in the urban part of Pontiac. I love it. I love it because I'm in a place, in a building, pretty soon I'll be able to say was, won't I? Ooh, that's kind of a kick. Anyway, I have friends who hadn't really given thought to other kinds of sexuality. They hadn't given thought to looking at their students and wondering if maybe, just maybe, they aren't straight. They'd never thought about it. I'd hear them say, no, you want to go be with the other girls. No, girls don't do that. No, boys don't do that. Oh, boys don't have ponytails. Oh, girls don't do this. How much we can get into what the stereotypes are of gender, right? And that doesn't even get beyond gay and straight. And there, we're still working on gay and straight there. Well, no, I push the other envelopes too, but it's great fun. Anyway, we're supposed to be able to go out and reap what we sow, but if we're not sowing, if you don't go, now, how many gardeners are here? How much of a garden are you going to have if you don't go plant anything? A lot of weeds, right? Yeah, I did know that much, because we've got a lot of weeds, except for the gardens where Ann plants. We have to be able, we look around and I've heard people saying, oh, our numbers are kind of going down. Well, how much sowing are we doing? How much sowing are we doing? Oh, well, there's Reverend Roland, there's the deacons. No. How much sowing am I doing is the question we each need to ask ourselves. How many times are you going to somebody and saying, you know what? I have this church, and it's like all churches, they go up and down, they struggle, they work, but we are doing what we truly believe is best. I'd love you to come and see if it fits for you. Just see if it fits. You don't have to have them walk in and become a member for life, because not all churches are the same size. Not all churches fit the same for everybody. Boy, have I discovered not all things are the same size, right? Mm-hmm. They lie to you when they say that on the tags of some of those clothes, you know what I mean? Anyway. So, not all churches are the same size, but this might be just what somebody's been waiting for. Just might be exactly what they've needed. Our denomination, I so wish we could take everybody here to a general conference. Because what we learn, what we see at general conference is all of what we can be. We see infinite possibilities of what MCC is and what we can be. Let me share with you, while I'm thinking about it, we can be a young man who puts out a CD about, I don't know, he did some rap, wasn't it, at the event. And then he has some songs on a CD that we received. I have one that I'm bringing back for somebody else if they would like it. It's not my style, but it might be somebody else's style. And so just let me know after service if it's something you would like. I didn't even get it up to the pulpit before somebody said, "Oh, you're kidding, you've got that? Sure, I'd love one." Just what I said. It's not one size fits all. Not by any means. So Jesus said, you need to go out and be among the lambs and the wolves. Oh my goodness. That's kind of even scarier than going 2 by 2 into places and thinking about shaking the dust off. Shaking the dust off seems a whole lot easier than going among lambs and wolves. Am I the only one that's thinking that? I don't know. Maybe I am, and if I am, just bear with me. But that's exactly what Reverend Elder Troy did. Reverend Elder Troy, first of all, he was back in the day when he was in LA and he tried talking to people about Jesus loving people who are, well, he was in the Pentecostal church, right? Was is an operative word. And he went out talking about this and he went to the bars and they were looking at him like, "Are you crazy? Let's just go dance." No, we don't want to hear about this because we know it's not possible. And I know that's true. My ex-partner in, I don't remember what year, in the 1980s I guess it was, we were in Indianapolis, Indiana, and she was pastor of the church there. She's actually the one that started the church in Indianapolis, Indiana. And she decided they had their very first gay pride gathering, and it was on the Circle in downtown Indianapolis. And I staffed the booth with a couple of our new fledgling members, and she took a survey and walked around the Circle talking to people about the church. And at least half of the people she approached said, "I can't do that. I know I have to choose, and I can't change who I am. So I knew a long time ago I had to let go of God." And Troy said to us, "No, you don't. Go among the lambs and the wolves. Teach them, preach to them, show them, love them. Let them know they have a choice. We have a choice. We know that. But are we sharing it? We're still called to go and do this. That call today to go ahead of Jesus and pave the way is still there for each and every one of us to do. We're supposed to be going on that road less traveled by, because I'm telling you what, there's a whole lot of people that aren't even wanting to look at that road less traveled by, are they? They're just ignoring that road, or they're holding up Bibles in front of it. We need to be able to go. Actually, I think a couple of our people that are here today, some of our new people, I hope I'm okay in saying this, are here because they met people from here at Gay Pride. Thank you. Thank you, Chloe. That's a pretty cool thing. Because we are doing the message. We need to continue to go bold and go strong with that message. Reverend Elder Troy, I love some of the things that Reverend Cecilia said. And as she talked about needing to be able to go and to be bold and to be strong and to do what we're called to do. And the thought just left my head. Sorry, let me reconnect it. Aging and preaching are fun things to go through at the same time. Amen. Yep, amen. And I'll come back to that one later, evidently. But she talked a lot about different places that we need to go. We were so blessed, and I almost didn't go to this service because I didn't know the name of the preacher, and so in my little head, if I don't know the name of the preacher, I probably won't go because I have no idea what the sermon's going to be like, right? Okay, so I am so glad I was wrong, because first of all, she stood about maybe that tall. I think it was taller. I think she was about 6'3", yeah, or 4 or 5 or 6. And then she was in heels, so she was like a mountain. And she is just about to be ordained in MCC. And do you remember her name? Reverend Alexia. And she is from San Paulo, Brazil. And she is transgender, and she is powerful, and I love the fact that she's preached in her native tongue. So we had to sit there and wait for the interpreter to interpret, and let me tell you how interesting it was when she'd get on a roll. Because you know how it is when a pastor gets on a roll, they're going blah, 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 and the other person's trying to catch up, and she just kept on going, and some of it was challenging. It was a challenge. But I think probably we are challenging for a lot of people who don't understand our language as well. And see, this conference highlighted in many, many ways how we are more than this. I hate to tell you this. I hope it's not going to shatter any ideas here, but even in the Detroit area, we are more than this. I have friends who are Muslim, but aren't really there because it's Muslim, but because it's accepting. Because they came from a Baptist tradition that wasn't accepting. I have friends who are Jewish. I have friends who are many different kinds. I have too many friends that don't know how to believe. We are more than this. It was amazing when she began her service because she looked at the stage, and behind the stage were all the seats for the choir. And she said, "This is our altar." And so I invite everybody who is transgender to come forward. And yes, and it took, oh gosh, it seemed like maybe 5 minutes for everybody to get up there on that stage. It was so powerful, I couldn't believe it. I stood in awe. I stood in awe at the number of clergy that I knew in their previous gender, and one of whom I went there at this conference, and I was like, oh wow, how cool, because I hadn't even really realized. It was so amazing. It was absolutely astounding to see that visual. And sometimes I think until we see the visuals, we forget. We forget all the possibilities of who we are and whose we are and where we can gather and where we are valued. You know, I know it's kind of an easier thing to say than to experience, but does it really matter how much those people out there value us? Or does it matter more how our God values us? And what I know is every time I go to one of our conferences, every time I get to experience the vast array of service, when I get to listen to our elders, and our elders are not always all elder, if you understand what I mean. Many of them are like a third of my age. And they have such incredible wisdom and vision for us. It's astounding. Our board of governors is just, I think we've got probably one of the best board of governors I've seen in a while. And they're on fire. And they need to be, because they've got some challenges ahead of them. But it was amazing because of Troy. Because he took the road less traveled. That's why the whole thing existed. Think about that. At the close of Reverend Cecilia's sermon, she left us with this one thought that I'm going to share with you as I close. She stood on the dais, and she's been in MCC for 30 years, and she's held a number of positions. I'd say she's probably in her 40s, 50s, maybe 50s. Oh yeah, I think she had a 50 and nifty shirt or something like that on sometime. Anyway, and she turned around and she looked at Reverend Elder Nancy, who was our second moderator. We've only have three. Reverend Troy, Reverend Elder Nancy, who comes out of Detroit, and Reverend Cecilia Eggleston. And she said to Reverend Elder Nancy, how old were you when you were made an elder? And she said, I think I was 28.
I think she was 26.
26? Well, you better talk that over with her. I could have remembered wrong, but I know one of them was 27, 28, 29, I thought they said. And then she looked, oh, I gave away the punchline. Jackie. And then she said, Reverend Troy, how old were you when you started our church? And he said, I was 27. 27 years old. If you're 27 or younger, please stand up. I'm here to tell you, we really, oh no, please stay standing. Sorry, are you brand new today? Oh, I'm so sorry. We really need to value these two people. We really need to, because, thank you, because Reverend Elder Cecilia was 20, she was one of those 3 20s. One was 26, one was 27, one was 28, something like that. They were the ones that have taken leadership that has gotten us to this point on this day 50 years later. 50 years later. You better tie on a good belt or something and hold on for the ride, honey. Because, pardon me? And she isn't even 20. Look out, God's got something good coming. We have all the possibilities in the world, but we need to really look around and value each and every one of us, each and every voice. That's one of the things, one of the many, many things about MCC that is just amazing, because we make sure that each voice has a place in this place. Amen.